was a firefighter back half a dozen years ago. I was paged out to a call for a member of a hunting party that had gone missing. This was a volunteer department outside of my day job. So I headed out with a probie, you know, a new firefighter, to a hunting camp. Hunters go missing all the time, so I didn't think too much of it. Most of the time, they just lose track of time and they turn up by a road or something. Well, we get there, and there's three men looking very shaken. I talked to the sheriff's deputy, and he tells me the men kept saying they got him, and something about being in the trees. It's already nightfall by the time we get there, so we decide to do a drive through, but no such luck. Over the next few days, various groups do SAR, which stands for Search and Rescue, but the hunter is never found. I didn't think much of it until I talked to a buddy of mine in a neighboring department a couple of years later. As we were talking and the events of that night came up, he tells me that two of the three men in that hunting party, well, they unalived themselves. And the third has been in and out of a treatment facility ever since. To this day, as far as I know, that fourth hunter, well, he's never been found. I'm a retired police officer, and I'm not gonna lie, this one scared me. So, I was sent to a house around 3 a.m. one winter night for a burglar call. It was an old, widowed woman who said a man was in her backyard watching her. Usually, this is dementia or someone just lonely, but we went. She let us in the front door. We went to the backyard to shine our lights around and look for anything. It was a mid-sized yard with a pond and a lot of nice Japanese maples, really well taken care of. We were looking around for about 2 minutes when I get to the back fence. I just felt odd, like I was being watched or something. I shined my light up on the top of the fence, and there is a guy in an all black hoodie with the hood over his head, and he's perched on the fence not 3 feet from me, just watching me. The instant my light hit him in the face, he does a fucking backflip off the fence into the other yard and takes off running. We look over the fence to see his direction, and he is just inhumanly fast. We call in for backup, surround the area, and can't find a single footprint. Keep in mind this was winter and it's damp out. There should have been something. Something should have been there. There was nothing. A week later, she calls and he's back. This time dressed as a clown. Just watching her. I drove as fast as I could to get there, but never saw him. She would call every few days to say he was there, but every time we never saw him. Never in my career was a suspect so nonchalant about us being there. No fear of being arrested, nothing. People just don't sit and watch the cops approach them and then do backflips off a fence. I'm telling you, this was truly bizarre.
Well, we lived and worked at a marina when I was in my 20s. Our bosses bought a used mobile home and put it out for us to move into as we had just had another son, and it was much larger, and we appreciated it. One day, as I'm washing dishes and staring out at the lake, I just spaced out. As I'm the only adult home, something hits me up on the head. I'm like, what in the world? Then it happens again a short time later. I look around and I can't find any reason for it. I'm like, Where did that come from? A few days later, my 5-year-old son comes up to me and tells me out of the blue that he was visited by a man in his room. He describes what he's wearing. He said, Mom, he was wearing a Texas Longhorn shirt and jeans, and that the man said that this was his house. Later on, as I'm at the office telling my boss about this,
Come on now. Your imagination's got the better of you.
what?
Your imagination. The guys, they've been in your ear. They've told you.
No, no guys have been anywhere. I know what I felt, and I know what my son told me, and my son does not tell stories.
It's just your imagination. Look, I'll tell you the whole story. Here's what happened, okay? We got a good deal on the trailer. Seems the guy that used to own it, well, he was unalive there.
We got to looking around the living room, and we found several bullet holes in the wall across from the door.
Got assigned to a construction site overnights. Huge, big city construction site. Three buildings, 500 units per building, ground level retail, three guards on site. The project's about 75% complete. It's around 4 in the morning. My radio goes off. Seems one of the guards is reporting trespassers and needs backup. So I go to provide backup. Takes me about 5 minutes to get to where the guard is called in from, and the radio goes silent. I'm keying the mic asking for information. No reply. I get to the location, and I can hear that guard's radio. I find it on a blueprint table. No sign of that guard. No sign of struggle. No signs of any trespassers. Absolutely nothing. I call the third guard, and we do a complete search. No signs of that first guard. Nothing. No signs of any trespassers. I don't know if they were homeless. They didn't leave behind any packs, bedding, nothing. It's almost like they just weren't there, including the guard. My shift ends, I go home, I go to sleep. Around noon, the guard that had called in all the trespassing and requested backup, well, his girlfriend texts me. She says he never come home from work. A few days later, she files a missing person report. And a few days after that, that guy's family hires a dog, searches around the construction site. Dog follows the scent out to the street and then sets down. Seems that security guard must have gotten into a car, and that's it. He vanished into thin air after reporting those trespassers and asking for backup. He's never been heard from or seen again.
Last year, a guy came to my house around 9 at night. He knocked on the door, and I got my mom, and she went to see what was up. By the way, we live in a rural area, so visits that late are extremely uncommon. The guy talked to my mom about how he was opening his business and asked whether she liked American made products, then handed her a Clorox container as a sample. I thought that was very strange. He went back to his minivan and opened it to get a vacuum cleaner. When my mom saw 5 other men sitting inside, she told me to run and get my phone. Since we didn't have a landline and I couldn't find my phone, so I grabbed a knife and stood around the corner. I was scared to death. She threw the container outside and told them to get the hell off her property. She was calling the cops. They peeled out the driveway and we never saw the car again.
This happened in the late 70s in North Carolina. My wife and I were newly married and on our honeymoon at a popular lake at that time. We were on a bridge just admiring the beautiful scenery, holding hands and, well, being all in love. Suddenly, my wife began screaming in fear at the top of her lungs, pointing down at the lake. It was a body floating underneath the bridge. It seems there'd been a murder a few days prior to our stay, a little further upstream in another location. I had to take her home immediately. That was the start of the end of our marriage. We were divorced the following year. The body was identified, but the case was never solved.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to click like, share, and subscribe.